RC flight simulators, I think, are incredible learning tools. I've heard stories of kids spending a year using on a computer in an RC simulator, and then they go out to the field, first time ever they're flying an RC model, and they have a perfect flight. And I completely believe that because they've gotten pretty good. For example, this is a controller for my real flight simulator. I think it's version 3.5, so it's a little bit old, but in the most part, it's good enough, good enough to meet my needs. And you're gonna spend at least $100. I mean, there are some less expensive options. Maybe $50, but plan on spending between 50 and 100, and you're gonna get a lot of value, even if you're not a beginner anymore, because I've been using my simulator to learn 3D hovering. And I mean, I've had folks tell me, learning 3D with a real airplane is easier. But I don't care, because I want to be able to do it at any time from home when nobody is watching, without danger of crashing and breaking a model. Okay, so even if it's harder, not quite as realistic, it's still a great learning tool, and I've found it very helpful. There's a couple of drawbacks to a simulator. One of them is that you don't have stereo vision working for you, which means that it's a lot harder to gauge the distance to a model in a simulator than it is in real life. And the other problem, which is the one that I tend to run into, is that when the model gets away from you, it's just a few pixels, and you can't tell which way it's going. And the simulators let you open a window so you can do a zoom and close up, but to me that takes away from the feel, from the realistic feel of it. So I don't like doing that. If you use a simulator, I think the biggest mistake that I see people doing is that they treat it as a game, an arcade game. And when you play an arcade game, you play, you do this, you do that, and then you die, and then it's game over. And that's exactly how they treat the simulator. And I think that's exactly also the wrong way to do it, because you really need to teach yourself how to do a complete flight in the simulator, especially because the landing is usually the hardest thing to do well. And if you cut that out of the equation, you're learning a skewed set of skills. So, an exercise that I do it's a lot harder than it sounds is in the simulator. I take a model, I take off, I do one circuit around the field, I do a proper landing pattern, and I land, and the goal is to have the airplane stop at exactly the same point that it was when it took off. And I mean, not only is it a great test of skill, but it's also a good way of getting a feel for the simulator and the model and learning the nuances. So put it to use, just don't treat it as a game, and till next time.